My name is Michael Hurd. I am director for the Texas Institute for the Preservation of History and Culture, more popularly known on campus as the Cultural Center. It's located in the School of Architecture. And what we're doing at the TIPHC is a virtual documentation of about 500 years of African American presence in Texas. So we do the website, we do a weekly newsletter, a Black History newsletter, and 3 or 4 times a year we do exhibits in our gallery. And a quick promo coming up this weekend for Juneteenth. We'll have an online exhibit talking about Juneteenth and what that was all about and what it means. Juneteenth, June 19th, 1865, was the day that Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston with about 2,000 Union troops to start what was called the Department of Texas, which was the post-Civil War occupation to help Texas, make that transition back into the Union from being a secessionist state. So on that day, General Granger arrives in Galveston, and one of the orders that he brings is General Order Number 3, which, long story short, was announcing that from that day, all slaves in Texas were free. And that came 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation had been issued by President Lincoln. As Black people, that's an essential part of our culture. If you go back to 1619, when the first slaves arrived in Jamestown, Virginia, and we started establishing slavery in what would become the United States, and we moved forward from that. And Juneteenth marked the end of that very torturous and long era of bondage for African Americans. So it's important for us to understand that part of our history, and where we came from, and the people who had to endure that, and the people who did not survive that. And we need to honor those kinds of legacies. In the year 2020, it's pretty much the same. It hadn't really changed throughout the years. This importance about Black history and understanding it has grown, as we see more and more African American history courses being offered. And it's exciting to me that the Texas high schools this fall, for the first time, will have an African American history component. So, and Juneteenth will be a big part of that. So for 2020, the emphasis hadn't changed. We need to understand our history, we need to know our history, and we need to know that very integral story about Juneteenth and where we came from and how all of that came to be. It's not just a day for fun and frivolity, though that's obviously a big part of it. There needs to be a dose of reverence for what that day is and what that day means. As we look back and again, the people who, just imagine somebody telling you after all of those years in bondage, all the things that you could not do, all of a sudden somebody tells you you're free. You're free to decide your own destiny, free to be whoever it is you want to be. And what a wonderful moment that was. So for the Juneteenth celebrations, that celebration is not just about, getting out and having fun, but taking a minute to reflect, on our history and our culture and how far we've come. Juneteenth helps to explain who we are and where we came from. And if you look at it in the context of some of the incidents that have happened over the last 2 or 3 weeks, one of the things that I hope people at this time will get from that is more of an interest in researching and learning about Black history, because it explains so much of why these things are happening, why these things are still happening. Because it's not the first time we've had these kinds of incidences and the relationship between the African American community and law enforcement. We're talking about similar incidences that go way back before then. So I'm hoping that we can emerge from this time, that more people will emerge from this time with an interest in looking into Black history and getting an understanding of where we came from, the incidents, similar incidences that have happened before then and are happening now. And as we move forward, hopefully we can learn from this and move ahead in a more positive light.